Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We're pleased to now be joined by our friend Brian Kilmeade, co-anchor of Fox and Friends. Of course, you know this. Nationally syndicated radio host. He's a best-selling author generally, and he's got a new book. The book is entitled Teddy and Booker T, as in Washington, How Two American Icons Blazed a Path for Racial Equality. Brian Kilmeade, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And I just, we're back on the New York Times list. We're up to 12 now. So,
good for you.
With Britney Spears, never easy.
Yeah, no, that's stiff competition. And not to mention, you got Brett Baer. I mean, you got competition in house too. You know, he's always writing something.
And he's always jealous of me, so this really must burn him that I'm ahead of him.
Yeah. So, all right. So, tell us why the relationship between TR and Booker T was so interesting to you.
Well, number one, I mean, in the beginning when I was doing these books, history books, and this is my staff, I just thought, I hope that people love the news like history. And I was hoping, I saw Bill O'Reilly have all the success, but then I realized it's like a war on history. They're ripping down statues, trying to destroy our past. And I just thought if I could tell the story, all fact-based, no spin, and just be able to say, tell the story through Americans that are well-known. And in this case, their partnership, like the Abraham Lincoln-Frederick Douglass partnership, that people would understand how much people sacrificed to make us the country we're in. And when Teddy Roosevelt, born rich, how do I relate it to another man born a slave, and how they came together and how they're alike. And with Teddy Roosevelt, his hurdles were physical. He almost died. He had bad asthma. He had intestinal problems, couldn't even go to school. And he knows what the struggle was to fight for your life. And for Booker T. Washington, he wrote the book Up from Slavery. And if you read it, and you see what he overcame to become one of the most respected people, not only in our country, in the world. And his legacy wasn't one of wealth, but of spreading education. He thought education was a great equalizer. And then he looked at Teddy Roosevelt and the power he acquired and the hero status in which he earned. He said, why don't we become partners? And for a black and white man to become partners when you're born, just at the end of the Civil War, and you have the turn of the century, I thought if I could tell that story in a compelling way, that people would be smarter for it and have more appreciation for our country.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned Booker T. Washington's emphasis on education, and we've talked on the show before about the unique relationship that Booker T. Washington had with Julius Rosenwald, former CEO of Sears Roebuck, and those two working together to set up Rosenwald schools. They were called some 3,000 in the segregated South to extend the opportunity to be educated to blacks that were denied that opportunity largely up until then. And so, so now fold TR into that education piece.
Yeah. So what Teddy Roosevelt wanted to show, and what Booker T. Washington wanted to show is, you might grow up and you might be told by your parents that blacks and whites aren't equal, that whites are smarter and more productive. And Booker T. Washington knew the truth. It was just a matter of education, so he proved it. He gets a chance to get his own education. Those travails to do that are unbelievably inspirational. But then when he has a chance to start his own school and graduating 1,000, 1,200 African Americans at a time, and they become extraordinarily productive in the workforce. And not only are they smart and intelligent, but they all have a trade. And when Teddy Roosevelt's able to witness this and see how the transformation is taking place right in the heart of the segregated South, he realizes what Julius Rosenwald realizes. We have a chance to transform America for the positive and finish off what the Civil War was in the process of doing before it was undone by the 1877 Compromise. And when people were able to pick up their heads and look around and say, there is no difference, it's just opportunity and education, then people's minds began to change. Generations began to transform. And all Booker T. Washington wanted to do was spread more schools. He said, you go to Tuskegee for free, but you got to be a teacher for 3 years. And I want you to spread it out to grammar schools and others and to underserved communities that were just one generation from slavery. And he was, little by little, they said, too, don't just learn the books. You got to have a skill. Sheet metal workers, construction, you're going to be agriculture, whatever it is. But you got to be multifaceted. Because at the time, people are looking to hire African Americans one generation off slavery. You have to be so valuable, you've got to be indispensable. And he also saw the white culture in the South couldn't do anything because the slaves were doing all the skill and all the labor, building houses, repair, roofs, and all these things. So that's what Ron DeSantis was referring to. When slavery ended, there was nothing good about it. But bottom line is, African Americans walked off with trade. They walked off with skills and trades and ability, but there was nothing good about slavery. But it was just a fact, and that's why Ron DeSantis, I don't think, took the time to explain himself when he did it. But when Teddy Roosevelt saw it, he became a member of Tuskegee's board, spoke at his funeral, spoke at the commencement, and they just began to use the power of Washington to spread the wealth, literally spread the wealth around. And then Andrew Carnegie, as you mentioned, Rosenwald, J.P. Morgan, they all said, hey, I've had great success. How do I help America? And I think we need to hear that story.
Yeah. So Brian Kilmeade, hi, it's Amy. How are you?
Hey, Amy.
So who reached out to who? Because I know in 1901, Theodore Roosevelt invited him to be a guest of honor to have dinner at the White House, which was a big deal back then.
Great question. 1901, April. He read up from slavery. I read up from slavery, too. That's the only thing I have in common with Teddy Roosevelt. I'm not putting myself on that platform. To his wife, and she said, Ian said, you got to meet this guy. So we wrote a letter to Booker T. Washington. I'm in awe of what you've done. Can we meet? And they met in New York in April of 1901. And they meet, and they say, how can we help each other? He's like, I'm vice president now, and I'm not doing much, but one day I hope to be president. And he said, why don't you come visit? Well, McKinley gets shot a short time after. He dies for a short time after that, and he ascends to the presidency, and he makes Booker T. Washington an unpaid advisor for the next 7.5 years. And the beginning of it was being invited to the White House, and it became a big scandal in the South because they don't want, at that point, it's embarrassing even to say, they didn't want a black man eating with the white family in the White House. And they thought it was too much for a lot of America to understand at that time. And for those guys, they just said, okay, this is the America we're in right now. We got to transform it, but we're going to be practical about it. We're going to keep this partnership up. We're going to keep it under the wire. And if you're going to come over, it's probably going to be at 4. We're not going to do the whole meal thing anymore. Even though he had African Americans over in the governor's mansion in New York all the time. And he would say, guys, just spend the night. It's too far a drive. If you've been to upstate New York, you know what I'm talking about. It's also treacherous at that time. So, you don't want to be driving in the dark. Stay here. That's pretty much what everyone talks about, what John McCain referred to. And I'm on stage in Joliet, Illinois on Sunday at 2 o'clock local, 3 o'clock Eastern. And I'll be talking about all these books in a fun, immersive way, talking about all the books and how we move through time and the great men and women that brought us there. So so when they got a chance to meet, they just wanted to work together, and you just see that friendship take shape.
Well, it's a great topic, great relationship to explore. I really like this. Brian Kilmeade is going to be in Joliet, as he mentioned, at the Rialto Square Theater on Sunday, 2 p.m., rialtosquare.com for tickets. That's, again, Sunday at 2 p.m. Brian Kilmeade, co-anchor, Fox and Friends, nationally syndicated radio host, best-selling author. His new book, Teddy and Booker T, How Two American Icons Blazed the Path for Racial Equality. Brian, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the book.
Hey, thanks. And everybody who comes gets a book. And it's going to be streamed on Fox Nation. You get 6 free months. We have a QR code we put on the screen. Everyone holds up their camera, and they get it.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Good luck with the book and have fun at that event. Again, at rialtosquare.com this Sunday at 2 p.m. Be there. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Looking for a winter destination to keep your golf skills sharp? Look no further than the Golf Factory, located in Mount Prospect in the Randhurst Mall. With 10 Trackman golf simulators, a full bar with a handcrafted food menu to enjoy while you play, you'll find a complete indoor golf experience at the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect. Come and enjoy state-of-the-art simulators that use the most popular launch monitor on the PGA Tour, providing the most realistic indoor golf experience possible. Looking to practice? These simulators read 27 data points to help you fix your swing. Want to play? You'll find nearly 300 real-world golf courses and add 4 new courses each month. Would you like to compete with your friends or make new ones? Leagues and monthly competitions are now available. Looking to entertain? Groups of 75 can be accommodated at the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect. See for yourself why the Golf Factory in Mount Prospect is Chicagoland's premier destination for indoor golf. Visit online today at golffactory.golf. That's golffactory.golf.
AM 560. The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now.